Hello everyone, hello and welcome. I'm Phaedra. I'm the astrologer and artist of Mystic, Physick, Astrology for those of you who are new to the group, and welcome to the full moon in Aquarius guided releasing practice for the full moon. The moon is actually full the 14th of September. We usually do our lunar broadcasts about a day ahead of the new and full moon. So that we can have the broadcast ready in time for our friends in the future to participate. But welcome, I'm Phaedra. So I use Western Sidereal astrology here in my practice, and the idea is my intention is to help you reconnect with the whole reason why you came into this life to begin with, basically to reconnect with your soul purpose. And with the broadcasts, really, I want to provide guidance for you on how you can consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect your life in a positive way. And so we're working with the 𝘵𝗵𝗃𝗀 Sidereal Zodiac in this group. Other zodiacs are welcome. Just know that from the broadcast perspective, if I'm calling out degrees and signs, that's what I'm using, the 𝘵𝗵𝗃𝗀 Sidereal Zodiac. So if you need to look up your sign placements for the broadcast, there is a handy dandy online calculator. I am going to refresh the video feed here and post the link in the comments. And if you're on, just let me know, if you will, that you can see me and hear me okay. I just want to make sure that we have sound with the broadcast. I think we're good, but I just want to make sure. Oh, there's the feed. And in theory, I have it muted already. Sometimes it's almost like I'm prepared. I have to make the window bigger so I can get a comment box. There you go. That's the calculator. If you need to look up your sidereal rising sign or your sun sign, that's where you can do it. Just plug in your birth data and grab a quick screenshot would be the best way to do it, probably for the purposes of this broadcast. But I do have a video on how you can get a PDF of your natal chart if you'd rather have a PDF document that has the aspectarian and all of that. I have a video tutorial that walks you through how to do that at astro.com and get a PDF of your sidereal natal chart. Tonight we're exploring the full moon in Aquarius. So, hi John, I'm so glad you could make it. I was thinking about you and I'm looking at my notes. I must have had the cursor on the page and like hit something on the keyboard, so I'm gonna see if I can make sense of what I've done here. Hi Maggie, yay! It's good to have you with. I'm glad y'all can hear me okay. So yes, we are exploring Aquarius themes of knowledge, the future, and rebelliousness a little bit. We're going to talk about why connection is so important. And then we're going to get into releasing attachments, resistance, with Aquarius, specifically the resistance of inflexibility. And we're going to look at letting go of any self-imposed limitations so that you can manifest greater insight, greater understanding. That's the goal. So I hope you have your sidereal natal chart. Grab a pen or pencil. You'll need that. A piece of paper, your beverage of choice. I have my accoutrements for the releasing practice all handy. I had to run downstairs and grab them because I've been rearranging and bringing the office upstairs. So I had to go get my bowl and my lighter right at the last minute. So let's talk about, well, let's give you a breakdown on how we're going to approach the broadcast. We're going to do this in 3 parts. The first part of the broadcast, we're going to talk a little bit about this particular new moon and the astrology of it and how we might feel it or how it might play out, the effects of it. In the second part of our broadcast, in part 2, we will get into which house this new moon, full moon, excuse me, is falling in for each of you according to your sidereal rising sign and what the themes of that house are. And so that's kind of a recap, especially, you know, if you're not super familiar, if you don't have these things memorized. Some folks have been in astrology long enough that they've got the houses down pat, but if you want to recap, we recap that every time we do a new and full moon broadcast. Jonna says, is this why weird Uranian stuff is happening so much today? Yes, I do. Yes. Weird Uranian stuff. And we're kind of caught in between orbital changes of both co-rulers of Aquarius. And I think that's influencing us as well, Jonna. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. And then in part 3 of the broadcast, we're going to specifically drill into Aquarius themes, the Aquarius archetype, and then I will offer you some prompts for your releasing practice, although you are always encouraged to follow where you feel led. So if you kind of have your own inspiration or your own prompt that you want to follow tonight, by the time we get to the end of it, by all means, please do. You are a sovereign being, and I encourage you to exercise your sovereignty as often as you can. So, am I Vedic? Melissa, no, sort of. So I use a zodiac very similar to what a Vedic astrologers use. In Vedic astrology, my experience is they commonly use 𝘁𝗵𝗃 or 𝘄𝗵𝗶𝘀 zodiacs. I'm using Fagan-Bradley. It can be confusing. The Fagan-Bradley is about 53 minutes of arc different from 𝘁𝗵𝗃, so it's not quite 1 degree different. And where you might see that have the most influence is with planets that are on the cusp of a sign or a house. Or if you have a planet that's making a planetary ingress intraday in your chart, it may be helpful to know for either type of zodiac, either 𝘄𝗵𝗶𝘀, where your planet falls at a particular time of day, specifically the time you're born. That's ideal. If you are further confused, Melissa, let me know in the comments. But yes, the Fagan-Bradley zodiac is about not quite a degree different from what most Vedic astrologers are using. And so if you're noticing a difference, that's likely it. But the link that I dropped in the comments right at the opening of the broadcast has a chart calculator where you can get a chart based on the system that we're working with tonight, and that way you'll know, you can be confident that you're using the exact zodiac if you want to use that chart calculator real quick. But yes, we'll talk about, in part 3, we'll talk about Aquarius, and we'll talk about some prompts that you can use for your releasing practice. And what we'll do right now is we'll kind of dive into part 1. We'll talk about this particular full moon in Aquarius. There's some interesting astrology with it. The full moon, the moon of course being Aquarius, we have the sun currently in Leo, right? We have an interesting shift in terms of what Uranus is doing and what Saturn is doing as the two co-rulers of Uranus, of Aquarius. So Uranus is considered the modern ruler, Saturn is considered the traditional ruler. And I usually encourage you, anywhere where you have a sign that's got co-rulers in a chart, I really encourage you to take a look at what both planets are doing, because both can have an effect, and it can just add a little bit more nuance to your understanding of the chart dynamics and the energies. So if you are coming at it from a Vedic perspective, you wouldn't consider Uranus, you'd be looking at Saturn only, because Vedic astrology does not use the outer planets, and I am using the outer planets, but that's partly why I like to bring both in to a reading, just because it gives a little bit extra flavor, another layer of understanding. So last month on August 11th, we had Uranus station retrograde. That was the very same day that Jupiter stationed direct. Jupiter's been retrograde for, I want to say, right around 5 months or so. So in this one day, we had both of those planets change direction. Uranus's retrograde is going to last into the beginning of next year. And Uranus is retrograding through the sidereal sign of Aries, so the sign of the self, the sign of exploration and adventure, the sign of forging new paths. And Uranus, of course, is an energy that's about ingenuity and inventiveness. So a kind of creativity, a mental or intellectual creativity in that sense, okay? And so so that energy, that spirit of reinvention and reinvigoration, that's turned inward. So a lot of our insights coming up in the next couple of months are likely to be very personal insights about our own self. And that, I think, could be a theme around this particular full moon. And then coming up in a couple of days, we have Saturn, which is the co-ruler of Aquarius. We have Saturn stationing direct, and Saturn has been retrograde since April, so several months again. So Saturn right now, I think we're feeling this effect a little bit more strongly in relationship to the full moon, with Saturn's co-rulership of Uranus coming into play, because Saturn, you could consider him stationing as of today. He's going to be parked on 18 degrees 54 minutes of Sagittarius through the 20th. So look at your chart. If you've got anything going on at 18, 19 minutes of Sagittarius, or even Gemini, right? Be aware, Saturn is drilling down on you over the course of the coming week or so. That's just about a week, right? And so this will have a lot to do with themes around obstacles and limitations, hopefully finally moving out of the way. Hopefully what you'll notice is things are coming to a head. You're finally fulfilling a lot of those outstanding obligations or unmet commitments that you have. And obstacles and limitations that have been blocking your ability to make progress, hopefully you're finding them finally lifting and moving out of the way with this full moon. But that Saturn, expect the Saturn influence to have more weight, to be a little bit stronger than potentially what the Uranian influence is. Although I will call out, Uranus is unaspected. So whenever the ruler of a new or full moon is unaspected, because we look to the ruler to determine the outcome of the new or full moon, right? So if the ruler's unaspected, we consider it to be, it's more of a maverick kind of quality. It's very unpredictable. There's no other planetary energy to modify the influence of the planetary ruler of the full moon when that's the case, when there's no aspect. So you don't have another planet providing strong kind of positive guidance. You don't have anything influencing it in any sort of like negative or challenging way. So it could kind of go, it's like anybody's guess. And especially with Uranus and Aquarius, we're talking about like the entire paradigm of unpredictability. So there's kind of a wild card factor at play where Uranus is concerned with this full moon. Saturn, however, Saturn is aspected. We have a nice sextile to Neptune, and Saturn with Neptune can really generate kind of a spiritual flavor. And so if you're noticing themes of spiritual self-discipline coming up right now or in the coming week, that could be why, especially with Saturn stationing, because that's going to amplify his influence, especially stationing sextile to Neptune. So keep this in mind. We also have Mars squaring Jupiter right now with the full moon. Now, neither Mars nor Jupiter are aspecting either of the rulers. So we don't have that particular modification coming into play. But what Jupiter square Mars can really do is amp up the activity level, so that we're just busy, like super busy, like go, 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 go. So what I want to say there is be sure to get enough rest, especially with this full moon, because you might find yourself busier than normal. You might find yourself putting in like lots of physical activity, just trying to get things done and wrap up projects. So be sure to get some rest and take care of yourself, and just kind of replenish that energy as much as you can, given what we're experiencing. But yes, expect that Uranus energy to be really kind of inward directed in terms of insights into your own self, your own motivations potentially. And with the Saturn piece, like I was saying there, expect that to hopefully kind of deliver a lifting of restriction as you finally move into a space where you're fulfilling your obligations that you might have had hanging over your head in the last several months. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but that's certainly the case for me, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to having some commitments wrapped up and some things off of my plate that feel like they have been there really long term. Things that I feel like, okay, enough now, it's time to move on to fresher things. So hopefully progress is a common, especially with Jupiter direct too. That was kind of a lovely change of pace carrying over from last month. So that's really kind of where we're at. What I want you to consider is that practical considerations are really likely to be coming into focus right now. So you can begin to make faster progress towards your highest aspirations. If you have Capricorn or Aquarius, sun or rising sign, you're going to especially notice Saturn's return to forward motion. And like I said, he's going to be stationary for essentially 6 whole days between now and the 20th. So if that's you, or if you have a planet or point at 18 or 19 degrees of Sagittarius or Gemini, like I was saying, yeah, expect a week of probably hard work. Your energy levels may suffer. You may be putting in long hours and you may just feel drained of energy, so be aware of that, and be aware of the possibility that you may just need to give yourself more time for rest, more time for sleep, as much as you can. Okay. So one thing I noted, if you read the September overview and short reports, that solutions that arrive with this particular full moon are quite likely to be ingenious or inventive in some way, and that collectively we can be more impulsive and unpredictable. So just be aware of that tendency in yourself, be aware of that tendency in the people around you to be more impulsive and unpredictable. It's going to take a little bit more patience than we might normally need to muster, because we have this impulsive and unpredictable energy in Aries, which is a naturally hot-headed, active, passionate, impatient sign, right? Rosalind says, this jerk Saturn is square my Sun, Venus, Saturn stellium, shaking my head. Law. Yes, I feel you. This jerk Saturn is stationing exactly opposite of my natal Saturn, about 2-3 degrees off of my ascendant descendant axis. So I feel you. It's been lots of fun, Rosalind. I'm ready for Saturn to just like pack his bags and move on. Please, would ya? But yeah, just be aware of that tendency for impulsiveness and unpredictability, and remember that the more you're willing to accept that type of behavior in yourself, even if it's not normal for you, the less likely you are to project it onto other people and let them get you riled up. So like I said, yeah, just deep breathing, make extra time for rest, and try to be a little bit more patient with folks. I do want to call out the day after the new moon, the 15th. This is kind of nice. I think there's some extra planetary activity that could really kind of flavor this full moon for us. The moon being full on the 14th. On the 15th, we have Mercury and Venus conjoining in the early degrees of Virgo. And we have Mars opposing Neptune. And so what I want to really call out is that Mercury-Venus conjunction as something that you can play with. Okay. Mercury and Venus is conjunct is kind of a special day. You can choose to spend it on practical matters. You can choose to use it in negotiations. I think that's an excellent use of a Venus-Mercury conjunction, is to move forward on negotiations regarding something that you may be negotiating, right? Because communication comes more easily. Specifically, communication in partnerships are much more likely to compromise. So that spirit of compromise can be greatly facilitated during this kind of conjunction, and that's really going to be supportive of joint efforts. So if you have anything like that on your plate, consider using the day after the full moon to move forward on it. Now, be aware with the Mars-Neptune opposition that misunderstanding or confusion or miscommunication could trigger conflict, could trigger frustration. But with Venus and Mercury working together, it's much more likely that things can be sorted out with relative ease. So take advantage of that. Don't fail to take risks on that day just because of a Mars-Neptune opposition, because you do have some really supportive energy backing you up if things were to go haywire at all, okay? And then just a little bit after that, on the 18th, that is the day that Saturn stations direct, technically. So Saturn will station direct on the 18th. That's the same day that the sun moves into Virgo. It's right before we have our new moon in Virgo. But that kind of gives you an idea of what's coming up in the days just after the full moon, because we do have some fun things that'll kind of flavor those days. But Saturn stationing direct, I think we're really, really feeling it, because the 13th is the day that Saturn moves on to 18 degrees, 54 minutes of the Fagan Bradley zodiac. And he's going to sit here right at 54 minutes, that little turkey, until the 20th. Till the 20th, okay? So just be aware. When you're ready for Saturn to move, he will get off his ass and move. In the meantime, we have to put up with him. In the meantime, it behooves us to get our work done. That's really what this full moon is about. It's about getting your work done and trying to not let inflexibility and self-imposed limitations hold you back. That would be wise. So that kind of wraps up part one of our full moon guided releasing practice.